Welcome back. Now, in this video, it's all about feeling, like the most important practice of feeling through your emotions. Because we said the only reason why we have so many fantasies and thoughts about what other people think of us in our heads is because we care, and the reason why we care is because the emotional charge. We believe that we can get something from the other person in terms of a love equivalent of validation or attention or approval, something like that. So, and the unfelt emotion of the fear of not getting that, this is what spawns those thoughts. So we kind of mentally prepare and retell those stories in order to increase the likelihood of actually other people giving us what we need emotionally without realizing that we can actually give ourselves everything that we need. So this is the path of the true mature adult. But with this being said, feeling, this is the point I'm making, that's the punchline. Feeling is crucial because then the thoughts lose their charge. It is not about getting rid of those thoughts. There are nothing to be gotten rid of. They are there to pull you in. They are there for you to look at something. They are there to show you something. And wanting to get rid of that is the same, like the equivalent of you have a wound on your leg and you cut your leg off because you want to get rid of the wound. The wound wants to tell you something, that you need to rest your leg. You see, and that you've got to be a bit careful in the way you whatever you did, go hiking or whatever. So the point is, thoughts are not there to be gotten rid of. The idea that we need to get rid of our thoughts is so widespread in spirituality and personal development, and that's not it. We need to feel, tuning in with the feelings. This is what it's all about. So what fears are there to be encountered? Number one, the fear of being alone, the fear of being utterly, having nobody there. And this freaks us out because when we were young as a child, this was crucial to our survival, to not feel this fear, to not be in the situation of being alone by ourselves. So the fear, if that's not really felt through, is deeply ingrained, and we still believe this has the potential for us to die, basically. So we need to fear those. Now, feel those. One more thing. When we sit down, what we've been talking about in the last video, when we sit down and kind of relive through the day, then those emotions can come up. It mostly starts with a thought in the head, kind of a fantasy or some mental chatter or something like that. And then if you really tune in with your heart, you realize that a feeling may arise. And the feeling can be more easily described in terms of sounds. Even if that sounds a little bit, what's the word for that? Like a caveman, if you say it feels like or more like You see, it sounds kind of stupid, but this is the more accurate way to describing those, because putting words to an emotion doesn't really give an accurate description. The sounds are more likely to really get the sensation, the subtlety of the feeling. So do not try to kind of label your feelings. It's more about tuning in with the it feels like this, I felt this before, kind of recognizing and being more, apt to feeling those feelings that are there. So number one, the feeling of being alone, fear of being alone, the feeling of the fear of being alone. And this is distinct from the other fears of, for example, loss of love and connection from friends, family members, intimate partners. Now, depending on our own psychological blueprint, we fear different things in a different intensity. So for some people, loss of an intimate partner is one of the most freaking out things that can ever happen, as it's for me the case. For other people, it's like loss of family members, which for me is not so bad. And other people are like loss of friends, which for me is also not so bad, but for some other people it's like, okay, I can live without a relationship, but without any friends, man, I'm gonna die. So what is the fear? You see, what are the fears behind the thoughts of wanting others to approve of us, of caring about their opinion? What are the fears behind that? We really need to tune into that and feel those through. Number three, of being abused by somebody because of our behavior, stepping on somebody's toes and offending somebody, so he or she will do harm to us in a verbal way or in a physical way or in any other way. And we do have those fears. But most of the time those things remain fantasies of catastrophes that never happen. But we need to deal with the emotional component to not kind of reject the story, well, yeah, that's not going to happen anyway, it's just a fantasy. Well, the fantasy is just a fantasy, that's true, but it's about the emotional component, and as illogical that is, it is still real. The emotion is there, so we need to feel that. It doesn't make sense to kind of disapprove of the emotion and kind of discard it. Well, it's stupid that I feel that way. Yes, it might be from a mental point of view, but it's still there, so we need to address that. You know, feelings are there because they want to be felt. This is the punchline. And fourth, of not being able to stand the intensity of the feeling. This is also a great fear that you will encounter in the practice of feeling through your feelings, that we believe like it is so intense we are literally going to burst, so we shun away. And this is what we usually do. This is what we've learned when we were little kids. When the emotion becomes too intense, we shy away and we distract ourselves by counting or by going to mommy or daddy, or like now switching on the TV, grabbing the mobile phone. When the feeling is too intense, we shun away. And this kind of strategy of avoidance of emotions still is in us today. But in order to grow into a fully mature, emotionally mature adult, we need to relive and feel through those emotions, and this is the way you do it. So there are two ways, as we said in the previous video. One, in the situation where, you know, the caring about other people's opinions actually arise, tune in with the feeling. Well, what do I actually fear? That's a good question to ask yourself. What do I actually fear in this situation? And then trying to feel. You know, feeling it around your heart area, maybe some warmth arises, maybe you feel like a contraction, but the feeling is also not the body sensation, the feeling is something different. And as I said, it can't be described in words, you can only recognize it for yourself, and it takes like a little bit of practice, can take a few weeks, can take a few months, because you really get deep and then you realize, okay, this is a feeling now I get it, before I didn't, you see? So those fears are to be expected. The point of this video is to give you like a little framework of what can be expected, not so that you seek for those emotions, but so that when those emotions of fear arise, then you say, okay, I've heard this before, I know what this is all about. So with this being said, this is the way how we actually feel, how we embrace those fears. And with this being said, let's jump right into the next video.